Hello again. So today I'm going to be probably reviewing the mini series about the story of Masters of the Air. Now, I saw the episode, all of it, 9 episodes, and what I have to say, um, personally, I think it was a very it basically is actually at a par where it's a Steven Spielberg production. You got Tom Hanks, you got every thing has been it's just a very delightful miniseries to watch. But of course, as the fans of HBO, Banner Brothers, The Pacific, when you have so many expectations because it's coming from the guys who actually, the director of Banner Brothers and The Pacific, when you compare to those other miniseries, Banner Brothers and The Pacific, and this one, Master of the Air, this basically came down to not the best miniseries comparing to all three of them. But apart from that, let me just review on this story on this miniseries. So basically, it's actually a story about the 100th Air Group, which is the 8th Air Force bomber group that was based in England during World War II. And you actually go across characters, pilots, navigators. So you got the main character, which is Buck, and of course Bucky, which is very in the beginning I was like laughing, why are these names so close. Sometimes get even confusing, but after that the story basically evolves to how they actually fight every battle, every raid, the significance of the war, the scenarios, or the risks being a bomber fighter pilot. Basically, in World War II, bomber crews did not live very long because of the risk, and it's very common that guys would have just died on their first mission. So after 25th mission, you would actually get a pass back to the U.S. and your war is basically done. So there are a lot of in the first, I think, 3-4 episodes where you got the developing characters, and certain characters actually died. Some of them were captured, POWs, the war. I think the whole story, 9 episodes, the mini series, personally I think was a bit too short. I think they wanted to make this I think they actually tried to wanted to make this film finish fast for some other reasons. I'm not sure why, but I think they had such a good slow. If they only could adapt a bit of what Band of Brothers did, you really kind of know the character. Every series, every episode, you kind of made it closer to the episode, made it closer to know the characters. I mean, in this Master of the Air, um, it seems very rushed, especially with the Tuskegee Airmen. You don't even really have a chance to really know the characters in depth. I mean, is this you got a lot of characters in the Tuskegee Airmen episode, and at the end, and only after a few episodes actually it all ended. So there's not much of emotional connection to the viewers, which I think if you're a fan of Band of Brothers, a fan of Pacific, and you have that very big reputation, overall it's a very good movie. It's a very good episode. I'm not saying it's not a very good series or whatever, but I'm just saying that it could have been better. From a layman point of view, this is for me an a straight 90%, 9 over 10 or 8 over 10. But from a critical point of view, as a guy who loves to see all these war series, especially from producers like Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks, these are not these are big names in the industry. So you would have at least a lot of the bar is set very high. So in that point of view, maybe would get at least 70%, maybe a 7 or 6 out of 10. But overall, the movie is really great. Depicts how towards the beginning of the war until the end of the war, and I think the last episode, the until the very last episode, you kind of only started to have connections with the character, but at the end suddenly it all ended. So I think that if only this series could have been longer, maybe a 15 series part, it could have been very perfect. But as from a point of view of other series covering about aviators and air bombers during World War II, I think this one is probably the best out there for now, for 2024. But a lot of hype has been going on for this series, especially since I think I could remember since the release of Pacific, and then there were rumors in 2013 about they're actually making another film about these bombers, U.S. bomber flight group in Europe. And since then, we have been spooked by a lot of rumors until in 2024, finally, it actually came out, and the hype was really high, and the expectations and the result wasn't really at par. But to be honest, I mean, given the credit, given the how the actors, Austin Butler, a lot of good. Sorry, I don't actually, I don't even really have the time to memorize their names, but they really nail the characters very well. I think character wise, the actors and actresses really nail the characters really well. The graphics in this movie is great, absolutely great. The attention to detail, especially. I'm not really sure if there are any inaccuracies. I think there surely is, but as I said, in terms of character development, in terms of the attachment towards the viewers and the characters, there's a bit of lacking, because I think they wanted to really fit in everything at once and one go, until it probably made this film look like it was in a rush to finish before it even started, actually. So as for me, I mean, I really love it. I mean, it just gives me a motivation to build a miniature B-17 after this. And yeah, I think Band of Brothers was a different level. It was a masterpiece. It it really, it really made you cry and made you attach to the character. It's like okay, when you watch the Band of Brothers, after you watch everything, every day you would actually think, I mean, after a few days after watching it, you actually think about, well, how this movie is. And when it all ended, it's like, oh my god, everything's finished, and you keep on googling the characters to see how their lives was. But in this movie, it's like, it finished and it's done. It's like there's no emotional. Even in Pacific, there was some sort of emotional to the characters. But again, as I said, this is a very good movie. Historically, if you're a history buff, you will love it. But of course, I would say that if they could have just nailed it a bit more, make it in a 15 episode miniseries, especially the Tuskegee Airmen part, I think it rendered more than just one episode. I think there are a lot of characters that, I think the message is very important here from Steven Spielberg's point of view, that they wanted to actually unite, I mean, like, colored African Americans and white Americans who, had, some sort of their help towards the war, a bit of, their efforts and the support towards, against Germany at the time, World War II, and their efforts to, help winning World War II. I think that's the message there in terms of, race relations a bit. But as I say, the character development, and I think, as I say, they wanted to, for some reason, end this very fast. So before you could even enjoy it, it has already ended. I mean, yeah, that's my main concern. I think apart from that, if they could have just made it a bit longer, not too, I think, to rush into how everything is being developed, I think it could have been a very great miniseries. Even if it made 20 episodes, I think there could have been, because there's so much of things happening at one time. From the first episode, they were bombing a Norway submarine base, and suddenly it already happens in Europe, and then D-Day happens, and then Tuskegee and Berlin, boop, and it's done. So that's my main concern. I think a lot of people also think that this was their bar has been put really high. So no matter how good it is from a layman point of view, I think a lot of fans would be a bit disappointment. But as for me, I'm okay. I'm giving this maybe a 7 out of 10 from a fan point of view. But from a layman point of view, I think was a very good movie. was a very good miniseries showing how, the challenges of being a flyer, bomber flyer, especially back in those days, and then having, a lot of their experiences when they were captured. Some of them were helped by the Belgians, by the European non-Nazi forces at the time. So it was a very, very good movie. It was a very good miniseries, especially for me. So I hope that, hope that they can make more of these. It's been 10 years waiting. We waited for the Pacific for 10 years, and then another decade for this movie, which, didn't really, I would say, meet the expectations, but at least it got released at the end. I think CGI, I think there's a bit, I'm not an expert on CGI or visual, but there's a bit of editing. Even that was maybe rushed into. I mean, some parts is like you can actually see the differentiation of the scenario, of the coloring of the movie, of the film. So I think that shouldn't happen in this level of film. But as I say, comparing it to Banner Brothers, it's not fair to say, because Banner Brothers is a whole different level, and that was, happened, years ago, 20 years ago, and that was really a masterpiece. I think no movie could basically challenge Banner Brothers, especially, and even for the Pacific. I think Pacific was a unique film on its own. I think sooner or later we will find that this Master of Air was also a unique movie for its genre, focusing on, airmen, bomber airmen in World War II in Europe. So hopefully they could maybe do a movie in hopefully they can actually do a movie about maybe the Japanese bombers over the Japanese over Tokyo. Who knows? I think there are a lot of miniseries if you wanted to focus on the Pacific War next. In the next 10 years, maybe in 2032, maybe we can have another ABC miniseries. So hopefully, Steven Spielberg, Tom Hanks, hope you can do a bit longer, maybe a minimum of 15 miniseries, or maybe a 10. I mean, this one was a 9. I mean, you always one more episode at least. So yeah, so that's my point of view for Masters of the Air, and thank you for watching, and goodbye.